Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Julian Bryan. I'll be your host for today. I'm the enterprise lead in the Sprout sales team. Thank you for joining us at another episode of our Sprout HR and Finance Experts by Sprout Solutions. And today we're in partnership with JuanTax. They're the first Philippine BIR accredited tax platform. They help you worry less about your company's taxes with their cloud-based software that automates tax preparation for an in-one approach. So how is everyone today? Now, we're aware that this is a critical time for HR and for payroll and really for all companies. The focus on getting back to work, it has to be precise. Companies have to be agile. And so we're here to give you some practical advice to help you lead your company through these challenging times. By the way, also, we're live on Facebook today. So this is being streamed on Facebook Live. So please invite your friends to watch and to join us on this, because as I mentioned, we're going through some extremely important topics today. So we hope that we're really able to help you out. So just to give you a brief introduction as to who we are, Sprout Solutions is an HR technology company that helps your company take it to the next level in terms of taking care of your people. So we provide systems and support for recruitment, timekeeping, also on payroll, and analytics as well, all in a cloud-based system, which means that you'll be able to work from home. It'll enable you to work from home and make work from home work for you. So we have seen a big demand recently, especially with the quarantine, that a lot of companies are struggling because servers are in the office and they're not allowed to go to the office. So it's important for companies to have a cloud-based solution that they can access from anywhere that has an internet connection. And now we hope that we're able to help lift up your team during this crisis. So just to go over the Raffle mechanics for today, while we're waiting for everyone to tune in. So there are going to be 3 keywords that pop up here. They'll be flashed on the screen. If we can go back a slide, please. The first keyword is tax. So please collect all 3 of those keywords, and I will let you know later on what you have to do with those keywords and how you can enter the raffle. Okay, so follow Advance and Sprout's official Facebook page as well. So you have to follow the Facebook page in order to be eligible. So it's at sproutsolutions.ph. If you comment all 3 keywords on the post that's pinned to our page, then you will be eligible to join. We'll announce the winner at the end of the session, so please stick around to the end to see if you are our lucky winner. And for the prizes, we'll be sending the gift certificates through email. So that will be at some point today before the end of today. All right, so please prepare your questions for our fireside chat later on. We'd like you to ask us anything that's on your mind with regards to matters concerning our topic today, which is managing finance and tax in the time of COVID-19. So I'm sure I don't need to tell everyone who's on this call that managing tax has changed a lot. And the BIR have changed submission dates. They have given extensions on certain parameters and promptly withdrawn those extensions in many cases as well. So we're here to help you manage that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. He is the founder and CEO of JuanTax. They're the first, as I mentioned, the first BIR accredited electronic tax software provider enabling accountants. Also, he's been empowering practitioners and leaders by sharing his wisdom as a thought leader, educator, and entrepreneur. Being an accountant by profession and a visionary by heart, he took the responsibility to empower everyone he meets in the industry with the right mindset to improve their practice and grow their business. So let's please welcome Mr. Marvin Galang. Good morning, Marvin.
Good morning, Julian. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for organizing this. Good morning, everyone that has joined us today in Zoom, and everyone that's listening or has joined us in Facebook Live. First of all, I wish everyone well. I hope you're all safe and healthy, which is really the most important thing right now. On top of all of this, which I'll share in a little bit. I know we can all go out and about. I hope we're all exercising proper care and due diligence in whatever we're doing right now. Just to give a little bit of background, to manage expectation, I'm not going to bore you with revenue regulations, revenue memorandum circulars that came out over the last 2 months while we were in GCQ or ECQ, and even now that we're out. I think there's a lot of webinars out there that has been conducted already on that. We've got all our reminders in place, and all our checklist has been given, and we should be following that. The bottom line is the day of reckoning has been set. It's June 14, technically June 15. June 14 is a Sunday, and so we need to do our part in order to comply with the law, with the rules. So that's as much as we have as far as tax. As far as background, I'm a CPA by profession. I used to work for some of the big CPA firms. In the Philippines, I used to work for SGV and KPMG and EY in the US. I was a former tax auditor at some point, which ironically was the for me, it's ironic. It really made me fell in love with technology, putting process improvements in place, and how do I utilize tools in order to improve those processes. I used all those in my experience as both in these two companies that we founded. One is an accounting outsourcing company based in LA, but the majority of our staff is here in the Philippines, is in Pampanga, and also a tax solution, JuanTax, for the Philippine market. I'm talking to you today in this respect, as both a business owner and an accounting professional, right? Because we've since the pandemic started, since the crisis started, we've been talking to a lot of businesses, clients, and really find out how this has impacted them, and really try to help them in terms of managing, especially our topic today, which is managing finance. And we were not spared. I've been trying to look for a graph or something that I can share with you, to emphasize the impact of all of these things that are happening. But unfortunately, I think I cannot paint anything nice. Everything will be gloomy. So I just got this graph. It looks like an elephant, but in reality, it really depicts everything that's going on. In the in any industry, in any businesses. No, but what's critical for me, or at least for a lot of businesses, is this section that we've shaded here, because the drop was drastic. So we were all going about our daily lives, our daily routine, our business. We have our business plan and your projections in place back in last part of last year. So you're going to operate that and execute that in 2020. You were doing well in January, February, and then boom, overnight, nothing, everything dropped. But what's significant here is not so much the drop, because we probably already accepted that at this point. So if there's still people that, there's still people that has had challenge or is challenged accepting it. Is really what's more interesting here is really how long are we going to stay there at the bottom. So part of this graph is a V curve. So in finance and investment standpoint, really that's what they're expecting. There's a drop, and then suddenly there can be an upside of it. No, but right now, it's the question is how long are we going to stay down there? uh, how long are businesses going to be able to recover? And I think this has a lot of impact with us. For us, immediately we lost 30% of our client base. So we lost a very big client in the U.S. That has impacted our operation, and that's a 30%. It's a 30% hit on the top line. That's on the revenue side. And for businesses losing 30% of their client base, and this is not we're not just talking about collection. Okay, collection, I mean, if you have a business and you're worried about collection, that's a different story. But this is really, you lost 30% of the entire client base. So it was a very big hit, but similar to what everyone's going through, we have to go through and lead through the challenges. No, it has impacted everyone, including our government. So we were talking about taxes, tax collection. This is the reality that we are faced with right now. So if there is a clamor for people, yeah, I mean, we were talking to people during the lockdown, talk to them about taxes, and we get very, very some are really violent comments where I'm not worried about taxes right now because I have to worry about food. I have to worry about our livelihood. And it's a natural feeling, a natural comment. But this is really the impact of what all of this has done in our economy, in our tax collection. So from January to April, the first 4 months of the year, compared to the first 4 months of last year, we're down 25%. This is both, in general, this is all tax collection efforts. But what's more significant is the month of April, where the government actually expects a lot of the funds coming in, primarily because of income tax filing, supposedly on April 15. But because of all these extensions that happened, this is where there's, the funds that they got. So this is a 63% drop of what they collected in 2019 versus how they did in 2020, a couple of months ago. So we're still in the middle of this crisis. It's really a medical crisis, a medical phenomenon that led to a global pandemic. People are forced to stay at home, or at least, advised to stay at home. But in reality, we're forced because of the rules and laws that were in place. Led to an economic crisis because how can we operate if we're not doing about our regular types of business, and we won't be able to pivot immediately to the new normal or whatever process we have that would allow us to work from home, eventually leading to a financial crisis, businesses, individual lives. But I think another significant impact of this is the mental and psychological challenges that people have faced, are facing, and I think will continue to face. No, so if there are, I salute a lot of the organizations that include this in a lot of their trainings, a lot of their webinars, because I think it has a great impact. We don't know the effect yet. I don't know how we can calculate what's the impact of mental health to your business, mental health to the economy, and how critical that is, because at the end of the day, it's still people, right? The characteristic of all of this is what's very challenging. It's highly uncertain. We don't know. Yes, we are allowed to go out. But really, how many of us can say, it's very safe, I can go about doing my business, and next week or next month, we're not going to go back in ECQ or GCQ and any of that. No, we're not trying to paint a bad picture, but I think that's the reality that this crisis has given us, or this pandemic has given us. We do not have an end in sight. Okay, a lot of the plannings that in associations, in businesses that I've been a part of or is part of, the planning is already all the way to December, and most likely they're not gonna exercise any physical or on-site activities, because of this. And at least there has been decisions made, for that, which is good. but it tells us that they can't see an end in sight yet. Is it December 31 and January 1 everyone can go out? So I love Jose Marie Chan, but if there's a joke, hey, by the time we go out, maybe we'll see him, and that means it's September. But guess what? We might see Santa Claus before we get out of here. Third, it's rapidly changing. It keeps on changing. We've had all those extensions. We have to keep track of everything that has been impacted by those extensions. For us, for tax, basically all the revenue regulations issued, the extension dates keeps on changing. The deadlines keep on changing. The ability to file tax returns and audited financial statements keep on changing too. But now, and very recently, there was a revenue memorandum circular that came out allowing businesses to now submit their audited financial statements electronically, so they don't have to fall in line. They don't have to, it's really practicing physical distancing, right? And the last one is there's no canned response, right? If there's anybody here that can give us a blueprint of this is the solution, and this is what this has worked for us, it's gonna work for everyone, then we want to know, maybe we can make money out of that too, right? But what this entails is it forces us to lead. And so, the title that we have is Managing Finance in this time. Actually, I added a little bit there, which is really leading through this financial challenge or financial crisis that we're going through right now. So we have to figure it out, real time under stress. So when we lost 30%, it was depressing. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days after that, you just have to wake up. How do I deal with this now? What can we do? There's no clear-cut answer. So there's no Siri, there's no Hey Google. So whoever you are, you are accustomed to talking, Cortana, Siri, Hey Google, or whoever. There's no clear-cut answer. So you have to resist. Also, you have to resist the pressure of providing a quick answer, because there's none, and most likely that's wrong. Accept that we don't fully understand the situation, because we don't. There's when will the vaccine come out? Some say, I read an article 2 days ago or 3 days ago that we're probably weeks away from a vaccine. I mean, I don't believe it. I don't know if you do, and if you're going to count on it. But we don't fully understand the whole situation. The virus itself is something that is evolving. Situation is changing. It will take time. And I think the most important part of this leadership through financial challenges is really the process. What process do you have in place? What process can you put in place in order to address the challenges that we are encountering? So, and part of that process is really these three things: the structure that you have, the procedures that includes the technology. So, I guess one of those webinars and one of those topics that are really, increasing in terms of demand right now is how do we go about using tools? We're used to doing a lot of things manually, maybe including HR, including payroll. And now, we're not in the office. We can't access our computer. The Excel file is there. There's so many data coming from different sources. So how are we going to do that now? So part of the structure is really putting in place that the use of tools, the use of technology, the use of procedures that we are not used to, or a lot of us have not been used to. So this is forced into us, but this is part of the process, and that's very critical. The second there is people. Actually, of the three, people is the most important ingredient of this process, which we need to use in order to lead through these challenging times. So that's us. So mental health is very important. How do we take care of ourselves physically through exercise, meditation, prayer, talking to other people? That's still part of the whole process of what we can implement in order to lead and succeed in this. And then the last is the problem-solving method. We're always going to be faced with another challenge. Losing a big chunk of your business, yeah, that's part of it. You can solve, or you can, well, you won't be able to replace that right away, but at least you can do something in order to address the impact of that. But after that, there's another one. And then there's another. And then now here, maybe we're saying, oh, this is a challenge. This is a problem. June 14, tax filing deadline. How do we address that? So we go through all these, the phases of a problem-solving method. What are the problem-solving methods that you have in place, and as part of your process in addressing, these challenging times? But part of that problem-solving is really putting a framework. So in this particular topic that I was given, it's about managing finance. And so the process that I can share with you on this is really a formula that we don't pay too much attention on. As business owner, including myself, and maybe as a finance professional, when we talk to clients, we usually just focus on, hey, how much profit did you make? How much or revenue did you generate compared to prior months, prior years? Yeah, we look at the balance sheet, as well, but really we don't, current ratio. What does that really have to do with me? I take care of my business. I look at my cash balance. I can pay my bills. But all of those thinking have been challenged now, and there's a specific report as part of that whole income state or sorry financial statement package that we don't really pay too much attention on. And partly because how it's presented, because there are so many methods of presenting it, and I guess trying to understand it will require some sort of a sophisticated knowledge, and really we're talking about the cash flow, and cash is key in solving this, or at least managing and leading these through these challenges right now. So how does that look like? So we start with our, well, in this case, I just rearranged the order. I would start with our cash position. What is our starting cash position? As a business owner, well, if you're self-employed, even as an individual, what's your starting cash position? How do you generate cash? Through your cash flow in operation. If you're a business, will my daily operation generate positive or negative cash? Investing activities, what are involved here? And if all else fail, where else can I get money? How can I finance this operation, even for us as individuals? And of course, the bottom line is we're hoping that it's positive. We're hoping that it's going to generate, a positive cash flow, a positive cash ending, right? And really, in businesses, we do this exercise. If you've probably in your company, in your business, you've probably done this last year, again in preparation for 2020, 2021. And how does this plan end up in terms of cash for the business? But again, we scrapped that already because the situation is that it's uncertain. It's always going to change. So we can do monthly now, from June, July, August. In reality, even monthly is so hard to forecast. So people are now doing weekly. And to a certain extent, for us in our company, we're doing weekly. But some businesses have to do it daily. They have enough cash to pay for some of your help or your workers, especially if some of these are paid on a daily basis. So what does each individual item there, or at least the framework, include? So when you start to look at your finance, your cash, look at the starting position, which is cash. It's really your checking account, savings. How much money do you have? How much cash do you have in these different types of vehicles? But identifying that requires one important principle, which is really, violated in a lot of ways. And that's the principle of entity, or the concept of entity. You need to know whose money is that. Is that the money of the business or the money of the individual? So I have a client I spoke to. okay, we'll go through this exercise, list all the funds that you have, list all the money that you have. And I'm referring to his or her business. And all of a sudden I see a cash savings there. And I ask, okay, I haven't seen this money before. We haven't done any reconciliation on that. So whose funds are those? And that's the savings that I've accumulated over the last 5 years. And I'm like, okay, whose money is that? That's not the business money. You have to remove it there. Spoke to another individual, and they included land asset as far as the land of the couple. So by the time you end this quarantine, you're going to end up in divorce, because that property is not the business's property. That property is your personal property. It is not the company's property. So we need to make sure you understand the concept, or we employ the concept of entity when we're doing all of these exercises. Now, this is the starting cash position of the business. If you're a self-employed, this is mostly challenging for self-employed, because who's the business? I'm the business, no? But there's still that there's the business side, which I can equate. If you have, please register a DTI so and you can open a bank account separately. And if you don't have a DTI, open a bank account separately for your business activities, which is separate from your personal activities. It's very discipline is required for that, but that's important. We need to identify what that looks like. Cash flow from operations, really money that you're receiving from your providing services or selling goods. We need to deduct, whatever we are paying our suppliers, our providers, our salaries, our employees, and also here the taxes that we pay. But I'm not looking at this on the aspect of an income statement or what the income statement really tells us, no. But it's really cash, So when we're paying our taxes, that's cash out, and that's part of your operations. Cash flow on investing. Well, you may have equipment that you can sell, business unit that you can sell. Now, I cannot operate all of those business units. I still has value. Maybe you can get money out of it. Less whatever cash is paid in order to continue operating, especially now. I think there are rules provided by the Department of Labor, Department of Health. So there might be some requirements as far as investing in some equipments to make sure our employees are safe, our employees are healthy. And then again, as I've said, if all else fail, where else can I get money? Borrowing, investors, less whatever cash that I need to pay in dividends, in repurchase of shares, etc., etc. So the bottom line is that has to ideally end up to be positive cash flow. What's in each of those? For instance, I'm not going to start with the cash or go through the cash position, the starting cash position, because that's very evident. Cash flow from operation, cash received from payments of our services. So how do we generate funds? How do we get money or generate funds right now on this? So if I can operate, so part of that is probably revamping services. So in here, people call it pivot. How can you pivot fast? Maybe a good example is the food and beverage industry. Shut down restaurants. How can they generate money? So all of them started offering delivery. So food delivery. But how do we order? So so now they're clamor to go through Grab Food, Lala Move, or Lala Food, and all that stuff. But one of the things I've seen here in the F&B is really the it's an informal economy in Viber. So I don't know if you're part of that. There's so many groups that came out, hundred thousands of members in Viber, really selling food, and the possibility of delivering it to your house. No, of course Facebook is there as part of that, and I think even Facebook realized now that their marketplace, the Facebook marketplace, where traditionally you would just post your products that you're offering. The marketplace has a huge potential in really connecting buyers and sellers, integrating the two. But how can we revamp our services? something to think about, something that can help in terms of putting cash in the business. No, collect receivables. Wow. Well, of course, this is if you have a lot of accounts receivable, aged, 30, 60, 90 days, that's an immediate source of cash. We should focus on that. Try to work with our customers. No, so and even if you look at this on the other side, on the rental side, we are the customers. We're the lessee, and they're working with us too. If the government has given them some mandates on, hey, we can defer payments, but at the same time, it's not a forgiveness of payment or forgiveness of that expense, but we can work with them hopefully on an installment basis. No? So how do we do this on the other side? Communicate with your customers, talk to them, try to find out, yes, the situation, everyone's going through this, but how can they help you too? Usually that's the question I ask. I need help. I also need to eat. I have a family I need to feed. How can you help me? There's a liability like this. It's a big collection. How can we help each other? And maybe they can give you a solution. All right. Cash paid to suppliers. Review your fixed costs. Okay, salaries, rent. One of the things that worked for us, we terminated our lease February 28, 2020. We gave a 30-day notice, not knowing that 2 weeks after we're going through go through a lockdown. Okay, you call that foresight? No, that's not foresight. If I have a foresight, I would have bought stocks with Zoom. Zoom in December versus Zoom's valuation right now, it's really it has gone up exponentially. So no, but it was just a decision that we need to make because we need to move in another office. But fixed cost, rent is the fixed cost. How would you move forward operating? Are there fixed costs that you can take a look at and you can reduce or eliminate? If you can eliminate that. Extend payables has been in a lot of journals, has been in a lot of tutorials as far as how we're gonna we're some of the things that we can do. And well, the government has already helped us on that, particularly on some rent payments, mortgage payments, etc. So that's also something that you can employ. I think the key here is communication. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're all suffering. You don't have to communicate. You still have the other side is also human, and they need to be aware of your situation. And hopefully we can both work out some sort of a plan. Drop variable cost if you can. And then cash payment. All right, deferment of tax payments. This is something that that has been afforded to us already from April 15. So it's really a 2-month deferment. And then for individuals, there are options for deferment of tax payments. Is up to 50% of what your tax liability is. So please take a look at all those opportunities. Now, when we take a look at this, talking to businesses, usually I ask, okay, now you're suffering. What do you need to do? We need to generate more revenue. I think we need to change our mindset. No? We need to change. I think the frame of thinking or the frame of thought is a little bit off. When we're faced with challenge, typically a lot of the times we look at the top, the revenue immediately. All right. I think that is a formula for disaster and a formula for bankruptcy. I think what we need to look at is our expenses. Okay. When we're faced with challenges and even on a personal level, so we've gone through this at some point. I'm not making too much money. I have to move job. I have to look for higher paying job, etc. Because I have a lot of expenses I need to pay. So how can we really look at that expense? And what are those that we can cut? How can we simplify our operation, our lives in order to survive, in order to lead this through these challenges? I think that's a very important concept. Okay. And eventually it will lead to wealth creation. That's not our topic today, but it's a principle that I personally believe. And I just wanted to share. But take a look at that because that's critical in cash flow operations. No, this is a glimpse, a mirror of your income statement where you have your revenue and your expenses. But if we are faced right now with challenges, where do we look at? We look at the revenue side more than what we look at the expense side. Maybe we change that framework and then take a look at how we can balance the two. No? All right, cash flow from investing, proceeds from sale of business. If we have businesses that we can sell, that's not true for a lot of us, especially for self-employed, because you are the business. Identify which equipment. If you have equipment, one of the things here that you may want to really, just don't short sell it or through a fire sale. Kasi there's really trying to identify the value of the asset and how much money you can. I talked to some, let's say the dental industry. I don't know how it's hard to grasp, how they can recover, or how soon they can recover from all of these. So I talked to them 10 patients. If they're looking at 10 patients a day, now they're probably expecting 2 to 3, because all of the guidelines that were given to them, and one of those is, maybe I thought cash. They may have some equipment that they have invested in before. Is there an opportunity to sell some of those? And this may sound funny, but dental chairs. So one of them said dental chairs. Really? Who will buy a dental chair? Sabi nila, it's the yung barber shop daw. So dental chairs can be converted into equipment that can be sold to barber shops. Well, I mean, I did not know that. So that's something that you may want to look into. All right, cash paid for new equipment. As I was mentioning earlier, because of the procedures that, especially that industry, for instance, the dental industry, now they have to wear PPEs, new ones for every patient, because that's the guideline provided to them. And of course, in a lot of other industries, they have some equipments now that can disinfect employees, disinfect people entering buildings, etc., etc. So there's cost associated there. So we need to identify those. Last is cash flow from financing. So, well, I've done all of the things that I can in my operations. Try to collect money, try to pivot a little bit or a lot. Doesn't generate the cash that I need. Still a lot of expenses, bare minimum that I need to operate. But we can't. So we need to forecast. Do you need help? Do you need to talk to investors? Do you need to sell a share of that business? So these are the things that we need to look into. How much? At what price? What's the value of the business? Do you have lines of credits? If this is something that was given to you before, but sometimes you just need to look at the covenant of the line of credit in terms of restrictions, in terms of penalties and such. So this is really looking at the investors. If you have commitments to provide dividends or repurchase commitments, then may want to talk to your partners. You may want to talk to your investors because this is something it's unprecedented. So we tried to look at the activities on investing too, and the different areas or businesses where venture capitalists or investors look into putting their money in. I can tell you it's tight. They don't just give their money right away. If they were maybe funding 1 out of 100 startups before, that's not the case right now, and they're very picky and choosy. So I think the first thing for them is really helping the existing companies that they have already invested in, make sure that they succeed, they go through these challenges before they put another a round of investment out. So but yeah, if in terms of financing, this is something that these are the things that you can take a look at. Again, obviously, at the end of the day, if I do all of those, if I take a look at each of these individual sources of funding, hopefully you'll end up with positive cash. No, it's a process. So there's some certain expectations. No, everything is an experiment. It's going to happen in real time. We are not sure whether they're going to work or not. You need to set reasonable expectations, best efforts in all of these. No? So you may have already put measures in terms of cutting cost. your revenue keeps on coming down, your collection is really zero. So whatever cash forecast that you do doesn't make sense, but you got to do it over and over again, because it's not everything will work, but it will eventually work. You just have to keep on doing it, and in implementing a process, these are some of the expectations that we need to put in ourselves. Just to summarize, you are the most important part of this solution. So we talked about, hey, this is the problem that we're faced with. These are the challenges. I shared that, the best thing that we can put there is really come up with a process of how to address each problem that we have. The structure that you have in place, the problem-solving method that you will employ, the framework of solution that we have. In this case, this is a finance framework, cash framework that we have. But the most important part of that process is you. Tayo pa rin. You have to take care of yourselves physically, exercise, get some sleep, talk to others if you're really feeling sad sometimes, because it's a roller coaster. I don't know how you're feeling today versus yesterday, what different types of challenges you have today versus yesterday. And if we need to seek the help of professionals, we should. This is a marathon. So, pace yourself. There's an urgency to solve this problem right away. In fact, there's an urgency to get out of the house. Okay. Go about and really trying to, grab the sense of normal that we have in February, and maybe have a glimpse of that right now. So there's some sort of an urgency on that. Let's try to rethink, pace ourselves. This is going to be a long, a long battle that we need to fight. You're not alone. That's one of the good news, is you're not alone. So seek help, help from professionals. Things like this, organized by Sprout. There's a lot of activities going on in professional organizations. I'm sure you've noticed when it hit the first 2 weeks of March, everyone's down. There's really no activity happening. And then all of a sudden, people now start realizing, wow, we got to get up, as a group, as a company, as an association, as friends. What can we do to support each other? So that's part of that. Activate a process, and then trust it. Yeah. So once you are committed to that, activate it, but just trust the process. It's not going to solve the problem overnight. There will be new challenges, but keep at it. Keep applying the process. And then the last is resilience, is adaptability personified. Whether these are tools, technologies that you put in place, a new system, a new procedure. Now a lot of us are forced to digital, whether digital payments, digital economy, e-commerce, and there's a lot of talks happening on digital taxation, internet taxation. It's gonna, we cannot prevent that, because when collections are down, we're gonna try to look for other sources of funds, right? And I think it's just fair, because some countries have already taxed that type of transaction. We've been sitting on it, probably because it hasn't impacted us quite a lot in terms of what our former plans and budgets were, but now it's different. So that's things that we need to again adapt eventually. But so we just keep on adapting, and adapting personified is really what shows your resilience. No? So I wish you all well. Hopefully everyone's safe, everyone's well. Hopefully you picked up something from this webinar. Thank you. Thanks, Sprout.
Thank you very much, Marvin, for that informative talk. I really, really enjoyed that. And now I'd just like to briefly announce the second Raffle keyword. So the second Raffle keyword is compliance. So to repeat, it is compliance. Keyword number 2. So that you'll get to know a bit more about who we are at Sprout and what we do, we'd just like to allow you to watch this short video before we move on to the Fireside Chat portion of the event.
Hey, Paolo. Good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, come in. Welcome to Sprout.
Tell us a little about Sprout.
We fix HR and payroll in the Philippines. We have a software platform. Companies use us to streamline time and attendance, HR, payroll, even recruitment these days.
Where did Sprout come from?
Well, I grew up on a farm, so plants are kind of in the background.
Okay.
Yeah.
So show us around, please.
Yeah, sure. So this is our sitting area first when we are entertaining guests. This is the P from our logo. My co-founder and I are quite hands-on, so we actually spent a lot of time kind of ideating and figuring out how the office should be. So yeah, that's how it got to where it is. This is Sprout's North Star. So this is kind of the fundamental vision of the company. We really want to impact the lives of every Filipino by improving business in the Philippines. So that's our mission and our vision and the whole package.
Hope you enjoyed that video. That's, of course, harking back to a time when we could all get haircuts. So now I would like to announce the third keyword, and that is BIR. So the third keyword is BIR, and you'll need to follow Sprout in advance on Facebook and comment on the post that is tagged there on Facebook. So the next portion of the event is our Fireside Chat. Please prepare your questions and type them in the chat box. So our panel for today, you'll have myself moderating, and I'd like to welcome back our first speaker, that was Marvin Galang. Our second panelist, I'm sure those of you who have attended a lot of our webinars in the past will remember our very own attorney Lester. He's Sprout's legal counsel and public sector engagement lead. I'd also like to introduce our third panelist, Reynald Salvador. He's a seasoned audit and risk management professional. He has 9 years of experience in various industries. And finally, our fourth panelist is our very own head of finance. That's Geoffrey Ogang. So welcome to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now opening the floor for your questions. Please ask away. I typed them in the Zoom chat box. So I guess our question we'll start with, gentlemen, is what are the business implications of COVID-19 in finance in general? Who wants to start us off?
I'll take that question first because there are a lot of legal issuances related to the COVID pandemic that drastically affected finances for both creditors and lenders. So first, good morning, Marvin. Thank you for joining us today. JuanTax is one of our friends in the SME and the tech startup ecosystem in the Philippines. So thank you, Marvin, for joining us. And again, good morning, Julian, and to the rest of our audience. So first, let me discuss that in response to the COVID pandemic. The government issued several issuances already. So the first one is, of course, the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. This actually required banks and those who are relying on rental income to forego to delay the payment of loans, indebtedness, and rentals. So this covers residential and commercial rent. These particular issuances impacted the cash flow of those persons who are relying on rental income as well as the income for repayments of particular loans. So everyone was hit because of that. The good thing about it that I think will come out of it is that governments have been forced to digitize. As you can see from the SEC and the BIR, a lot of their processes are now migrating online. So this facilitates physical and social distancing, as well as gives us in the SME ecosystem a lot of opportunities to streamline further our operations. So there are good and bad sides to it. And the first one I would like to say is that everyone was badly hit by this pandemic and how the government responded to it. Everyone, regardless of size, regardless of industry, So it's now really, I like what Marvin said earlier in his presentation, that you have to begin with yourself. Those who are relying on personal or on professional services for their income, those who are relying on those who are single proprietors, we all begin with ourselves, because right now, the best asset that we can take care of and that is absolutely within our control is our personal and our family's health.
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Lester. That's some great points. And you did, you mentioned the government and the various government organizations that are here. But a question here is the Philippines digitally resistant, digitally resilient in terms of tax? And therefore, how important is being digitally resilient during this time of these challenges? I'm sure, Marvin, you have thoughts on this.
Okay, that's a very timely question, but I think it's a very sensitive question too. We have when we were doing our research as far as the the countries, particularly in Asia, that has started or has digital tax compliance, digital tax efforts, we have seen that we were one of the first that has implemented such. The program that we provided our taxpayers was way early in the I think 2003 or 2004, which a lot of the other countries in Asia did not have at that time. And I think even with the other platforms that we provided on digital taxation, digital tax compliance, have been around for now a decade. For filing. Surprisingly, in 2018, when we looked at the survey straight from the BIR's data, that there's still half of the tax-paying public that is not on the platform. All right, so that means they're complying manually. So when we look at the news on April 15, not this year but prior years, and see how busy the lines are, those are the actual scenarios. People are really falling in line and they're trying to do all of these manually. I think there's several reasons to that. Our infrastructure is one that is needed to, access to internet, and education as far as the use of these digital platforms, awareness. And sometimes when we talk to people, there's like, wow, I didn't know that I can do that now. And that there are certain platforms that can do end-to-end solutions and end-to-end processing and all that stuff. So the campaign has been going around, but just like anything else, it will take time in order to sink in. It will take time to assimilate, but eventually it will. And the last piece there is probably our, in the transformation journey, there is always that sense of the romantic sentiment that I'm moving away from what I used to do or how I used to do things, and embracing something that is new. And whether or not it's forced to us, because we cannot go out, we've seen people still wait. Oh, by the time we go out, we can go back to how we're doing things before. For me, those are just the at least the major barriers, for digital tax resiliency. But it can't happen overnight. But I know we believe it's going to happen eventually.
Mm.
I'd like to dovetail
Sure.
on what Marvin mentioned earlier. I think we have to look at the resilience in that aspect, in terms of the government and in terms of the individual taxpayer or the corporate taxpayer. I think at this point, Marvin, JuanTax is it's probably one of the best platforms out there for small and medium enterprises in order to ensure that they are tax compliant, regardless of whatever is happening out there on the street. At least if you move to platforms like what JuanTax offers, you are assured of your compliance on the tax component of your business, even if you're, everyone is physically out of the office and working from home. So that's the value that migrating to an online platform and the service provider like JuanTax gives to the taxpayers. As far as the government is concerned, I would say that there's still a lot of improvement to be desired in digital governance on the Philippines. And a lot of it has to do with the legal and compliance requirements. For example, notarization. There is no such thing as digital notarization yet in the Philippines, but in the industry, in the legal circles, it has been an ongoing discussion in light of the pandemic, the community quarantine. So actually, tomorrow there's a Legal Hackers Manila Facebook forum on e-notarization. So I'll be attending that. It's on Legal Hackers Manila Facebook. So if you are interested to find out the developments there, please check out that page.
It's interesting that you mentioned notarization. That's really, Lester. It's something that I have certainly struggled to get my head around since moving here. Is the first time I ever got any document notarized was when I was moving from Canada to the Philippines, and the Philippine government required a notarized document. Up till then, I'd never had a document notarized in my life.
Oh wow!
And so
I didn't
it's
know that.
and it's we're talking about the transition to a modernized framework where maybe you don't need 5 copies of every contract that you 5 paper copies in this mountain of paper that you end up having,
and you have like a 22-page document for that.
Well, exactly, and it's not
I
exactly
actually agree with
environmental.
that. I agree with that, especially if you're the signatory of those 5 copies, right, Julian?
Yes, it's a lot of signing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And going back to also what Marvin mentioned before, when you're transitioning to a digital framework, everything, as long as it is implemented correctly, everything does become easier. So I lived in Canada before coming to the Philippines, and to submit my tax there, I used a digital tax platform just like JuanTax, and it took me maybe 10 minutes a year to do my taxes. And hopefully we can move towards something like that. And it's the kind of thing when someone starts using that, they're not going to want to go back to the old ways. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can move towards that. Now, we do have a question from a chap called Rainier in our audience, but I just wanted to move the previous question about digital resilience. I wanted to ask Ray about that because he's a seasoned risk management professional, and so digital resilience must be a serious component of any risk management strategy.
Yeah, actually, e-payment, or we have mobile wallets more than a decade now here in the Philippines, but online transaction is still quite low. So way back 2013, that's around 3%, if I remembered correctly, that amount or the value of transaction for online payment. So by last year, it grew for, actually BSP's target last year is 20% value of online payments by the end of 2020. But they raised it to 30% by this year. But due to the pandemic, of course, as we've noticed, compared to last year's first quarter or first 4 months, it grew from 8% to 20%. So that's one way why Filipinos are quite digitally resilient is more of the mindset of cash is still king. So that's also one of the reasons. Again, what Attorney Lester noted earlier is the infrastructure. So as part of one of the priority program of NEDA as well is the national broadband policy. Hopefully this will be implemented, and also the government regulation, like for example KYC. So the national ID can help this industry as well to promote digital payment, as well as of course to help those who are most of the time this fintech or company or industry are more moving, or their organization or their objective is more to help those underserved. So of course, they need to have a proper credit scoring background check for this individual. And that's one way to help increase this digital payment. And with this type of scenarios or pandemic that we're having, of course, for these technology or tech-inclined companies, they need to prepare for the possible implementation of this program. At the same time, other scenarios that could have affect their business. But most of the time, of course, this is an opportunity for them to help not only their business, but also our country as a whole, our economy as a whole. Since, for example, through public transportation, they're promoting cashless. So that's one way to promote this one. And of course, hopefully everyone will be more or less resilient to the transition.
Well, yes, and also a complaint you hear a lot is that these digital wallets are not exactly easy to sign up for. And I speak from personal experience where they don't accept any of my ID, so I can't use it.
Yes, that's part of BSP requirements for the KYC. But recently, during the pandemic, BSP also relaxed this one. But at the same time, they still need valid ID for that.
Yes. So I know that a lot of people don't find it easy. So there was a question that came in from Reynald in our chat here. Is it still allowed by BAR for taxpayers to file their income tax returns and audited financial statements in any RDOs where the business is not registered? Likewise, on the payments that are due June 14, so June 15, because June 14 is a Sunday, is that allowed?
Yeah, so that question kind of it has come up and it is still coming up. So really it's really the information or the knowledge of how the procedures on filing seem to be not very clear. If you're filing these tax returns electronically, all right, there's no restrictions as far as RDO. There's no such restriction, because you're not required to go to the office or fall in line. You can do it anywhere. And that's what BIR has been promoting too over the last 2 months, since the start of the quarantine, that people should try to file their tax returns online. There's no restriction as to RDOs. You just file your return. Now, in terms of payment of taxes, that is again a restriction removed when BIR allowed electronic payment of taxes. So they have an if you look at the website of the BIR, they have a listing of electronic payment providers. We're talking about e-payment providers. We're not talking about authorized agent banks, because there's a distinction. The authorized agent banks, they have a lot of list of banks that you can pay taxes to, but to pay taxes to them, you have to fall in line. You have to go over the counter and fall in line, and it has to be in an authorized agent bank that is within the RDO of the taxpayer. All right. That specific rule was also relaxed during the quarantine. They're saying you can now pay your taxes, even falling in line, in any bank, regardless of the RDO, whether that's happening or not. I mean, there's a lot of different experiences that you can hear from taxpayers. So still, the best solution is go online.
All right, and how about the stamping of the audited financial statements? We need to have some quick answers. We've got a couple of questions to squeeze in. We're already running over time, so let's.
Yeah. So thank you. So there was a revenue memorandum circular issued just this weekend. So this is fresh. Fresh off the bakery, fresh out of the kitchen. But last weekend, there was a revenue memorandum circular issued on that. The website is already up. You can register. You can upload audited financial statements there. There are steps that you need to follow, but the email confirmation that you're going to receive is equivalent to a received stamp. The manual stamping. The equivalent of that is the email confirmation. As long as you have the email confirmation, keep a copy of that. That is your stamp. It's all done electronic.
Wonderful.
Just to add to that, Julian, I think there is an RMC covering the payment to any AAD already. So I am not sure if there is an amended one, but you can check RMC 28/2020 for that one, Rainier. If that was Rainier who asked for that thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Geoff and Marvin. We've got another question here from Virgil. Good morning. Just wanted to ask if there is a deadline for electronically filed income tax return audits to be submitted.
Yeah, so the deadline for that, if you electronically file the tax return, the deadline for the electronic submission of the audited financial statements is June 30, the end of the month.
Okay, great. And last question, how really has the interruptions of filing these documents affected businesses? Marvin, I'm sure you've spoken to lots of businesses during this time. Ditto with Geoff Lester and Ray. So how really has this interruption affected business?
Well, I mean, it affected the government primarily because of the need for, as we've seen shown in the graph as far as collection efforts. So if you look at the drive right now in terms of digital tax and where else can we get the funds, really there's a couple of things that the government can do. Number one, borrow money, which we have been doing because I'm sure you're reading that in the news. And second is really to drive digital transformation on tax administration. If this is I mean, there are a lot of arguments out there where, hey, if these are all done digitally, we don't have to physically file our tax returns, and people have a lot of easy ways to get these returns in and to get their payments in. For businesses, I mean, of course, there is a tightness in cash is going to have an impact on how they would comply. Yes, there may be understanding of how to do this electronically, but at the end of the day, the sentiment that we're hearing from taxpayers is really, I don't want to worry about that right now. I mean, because I need to worry about my business first versus tax filing.
Well, and at least they're being afforded that kind of flexibility by the BIR as well. But how about a third option for the government? How about easing strategies like we saw back in the financial crisis, at least in the West, where they underwent quantitative easing measures instead of borrowing money, printing money? Is that something that you think they might look towards doing, or do we think that the impact on inflation will be too much?
I think it's part of the overall solution that has been presented. But in terms of the economic impact of that, I'm not 100% sure. Definitely,
I'd like to just mention something about that, Julian. The Philippines was actually one of the countries least hit by the 2008 financial crisis, primarily because our fiscal regulations are very much cash-driven. The Philippine economy is very much cash-driven, so I don't think that in terms of measures to ease up restrictions. I think I'd like to just mention this really briefly. Tomorrow is actually the last day that this Congress is in session. After June 5th, the Congress will be in recess. So any pending bills, particularly the CREATE bill, this is the revised proposal from NEDA. So they abandoned CITIRA and then they have this bill called CREATE. They're pushing for it very hard. So I'm hopeful that aside from the anti-terror bill, which was very much fast-tracked yesterday, our congressmen would be able to at least pass CREATE before the end of this Congress session.
All right, thank you very much.
I would also like to...
Sure,
just quickly, yeah. Very, very short only. So I also think, in addition to what Marvin said earlier, I think the biggest impact right now of the interruptions in the filing is cash flow, actually. So because almost all of the taxes falls due in June, right? So the companies really have to pay within a month. So imagine paying multiple months in the month of June. So that's really a big impact to the companies right now, to the businesses right now. Yeah.
Cash flow is going to have to be managed properly in order to be able to meet that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Really, really appreciate your answers.
You're on mute, Julian.
Sorry, look at that. I was trying not to interrupt you, Geoff, but thank you very much, gentlemen, for those answers. I'm sure we all got a lot out of that. And that concludes our fireside chat portion. However, if you are still looking to have questions answered, don't worry. Those can be emailed to Anj, A-N-J, at Juan.tax. So if you still have questions, I know there were some that we unfortunately couldn't get to in the chat. They came in a little bit late. So please email those to Anj at Juan.tax, and hopefully they will be answered there. Now, Marvin, as our special guest, thank you very much for your contributions today and the fantastic presentation. We'd like to present you with a certificate of appreciation from Sprout. We really do appreciate you taking the time to come in, and we will also be giving you a token of our appreciation after the webinar. So thank you very much for your time today. Thank you also to our event partner, JuanTax. As I mentioned earlier, the first Philippine BIR accredited tax platform. They help you worry less about your company's taxes, and their software is cloud-based, so accessible from anywhere, and it automates your tax preparation. So before we end the webinar, I'd also like to announce that the Sprout Rescue Kit to help get you back to work is still in full swing this summer. So you can get all the HR and payroll help that you need as we have extended signups to our Sprout Rescue Kit until, throughout this month. So the free access is for 60 days. If you are looking to avail of this, please have a look on our website. We have a COVID section on the Sprout website, that's sprout.ph, and you can see more information there. Also, now the moment that you have all been waiting for, we're going to announce the winners of the raffle. Also the link for the rescue kit, by the way, is in the chat. So please click that link if you're interested in signing up and availing of Sprout's software for free for 60 days, just to help you transition. Now for the winners of the raffle, our winners are, they have been given to me, but they're much further up the chat. Here we go. We have Liza, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Liza Inasoria, Myra Balde, and Randy Bacolod, and also Sheila Fabricano as well. So congratulations to our winners. We will reach out to you later today with your prizes. Thank you very much to everyone that took part. We can also, so for the winners, please type your email address in the Zoom chat box. Please make that to panelists only, not to all attendees. And we will send you the GC codes through email. So just to panelists only in the Zoom chat box, please type your email addresses, and we will reach out to you. We can also send you e-certificates for attending this session. So here are the instructions on how to get an e-certificate. You just email info@sprout.ph, and we'll be able to send you a certificate of attendance for today's webinar. Please follow our social media pages and use hashtag #OBWithSprout to be updated on our events. We will be having another webinar next Tuesday, so we hope that you're able to join us for that. But all that remains for me is to thank Marvin Galang again once more for his contributions today. We really do appreciate it. I certainly learned a lot. And we hope to see you again next time at our next event, which will be next Thursday. Thank you very much for attending.